Okay, do it. Chalo. Nothing's happening. Okay, okay, okay. Done, 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 done. अवतार मेहर बाबा की जय. That means all these are states. That means combined together means states. Thank you. Correct. Mono. One minute. 30 seconds more. We are on, no? Thank you. Jai Baba. Everyone and everything is everyone and everything at the same time and for all time. Meher Baba. Avatar Meher Baba ki jai. With the grace of beloved Baba, we are meeting once again in his remembrance, in his love. The whole purpose of these sessions is to please our beloved Baba, because he wished that each one of us read God Speaks at least once in our lifetime. The focus is on reading. I always say there are 4 R's, which is repetition, reinforces, retention, and reproduction. We remember, we reproduce, provided it is repeated over and over again. So we are going to follow that practice here, which would mean that Saumya would read a certain passage, I would reread that passage and try to explain the nuances, the meaning of it. And as I had said in my earlier sessions, this subject is, to some extent, ununderstandable. Baba himself said that this is beyond the mind. So as much as we can understand, we'll go to that limit. Beyond that, we will just pass it on and keep reading. So now Saumya will read from part 1. In fact, this is session 4. And this is the first time we are actually embarking upon reading God Speaks. Prior to that, we read the introductions. So go ahead.
States of consciousness. All souls, Atmas, were, are, and will be in the Oversoul, Paramatma. Souls, Atmas, are all one. All souls, Atmas, are infinite and eternal. They are formless. All souls, Atmas, are one. There is no difference in souls, Atmas, or in their being and existence as souls, Atmas.
Now, she is reading from the original God Speaks, which is the first edition. I am reading from the second edition. There could be a few words changes in few words, because every time she said soul, she's also using the word Atma, which is not there in second edition. It's only at the first time that it writes soul, Atma. So now, this is part 1. As I had said earlier, in this book, we don't talk about chapters, we talk about part. So this is part 1. And the title of this part 1 is States of Consciousness. Baba explains only consciousness. When Baba talks about evolution, he talks about evolution of consciousness. So here it says, all souls, Atmas, were, are, and will be in the Oversoul, Paramatma. That means souls is equal to Atma, Oversoul is equal to Paramatma. That is how we try to understand. Souls, Atmas are all one. Very important to understand that at the soul level, we are all one. There is no differentiation, there is no difference. If at all there is a difference, it is in consciousness. That will come to that. Then Baba goes on to say, all souls are infinite. We all know what infinite is, but as a matter of abundant precaution, I have even given certain words from the dictionary. Infinite would mean unlimited in space, without end, without limit, without bounds, greater than any assignable quantity, numberless, immeasurable, boundless. When we say God is infinite, it simply means that there is not a smallest pinpoint which is outside God, but the moment you say that this is outside God, instantaneously God becomes finite. That means there is nothing outside of Him. That is the meaning of all souls are infinite and eternal. Eternal would mean what? In relation to time. That means without beginning, without end, everlasting, endless, ceaseless, immortal, imperishable. That means if I consider myself as a soul, then I imbibe all these attributes. I am immortal. I always was, I am, and I ever will remain. There has never been a time where I was not, and there will never be a time where I will not be. So that is the meaning of eternal. So Baba says, all souls are infinite and eternal. They are formless. Okay, Nirakar we call it, formless. That means in the soul sense, we are all formless. Then Baba goes on to say, all souls are one. Capital O. That means we are all one. There is no difference in souls or in their being and existence as souls. That means as souls, we are all one. Go ahead.
There is difference in the consciousness of souls, Atmas. There is difference in the planes of consciousness of souls, Atmas. There is difference in the experience of souls, Atmas, and there is difference in the state of souls, Atmas. Some souls, Atmas, are conscious of the gross body, Sharir. Some souls, Atmas, are conscious of the subtle body, Pran. Some souls, Atmas, are conscious of the mental body, mind or Mana. And some souls, Atmas, are conscious of self, their own selves.
Well, the languaging in the second edition is slightly different. So we'll be going by this because after the first edition was published, there were many questions posed before Baba and he answered them. And this second edition has been minutely gone through by beloved Baba. So there would be some changes in the wordings. So actually, in essence, in beingness, there is no difference between all the souls. But where does the difference crop in? So there is a difference in the consciousness of the soul. An ant is a soul, this bottle is a soul, the phone is a soul, the table is a soul, but the consciousness is different. So Baba says there is a difference in the consciousness of souls. There is difference in the planes of consciousness of souls. We'll come to planes where Baba talks about the involutionary journey, the involution, or the path to realization. After finishing all our gross sanskaras, we enter the spiritual path, and that is where the planes start. There are total 7 planes, of which 6 are in the domain of illusion, 7th is the reality. So in other words, between 6 and 7, you go from the sleep state to the awake state, from the darkness to light, from ignorance to knowledge, from dvaita, duality to oneness or advait. So these are the planes. So Baba talks about this. There is a difference in the planes of consciousness of souls. There is a difference in the experience of souls because you are at different planes of consciousness. You are having different levels of consciousness, and therefore the experience of an ant or a sparrow or a human being is totally different. The experience is because of these things. The difference is this. There is difference in the experience of souls, and thus there is a difference in the state of souls. So each soul is in different state. Most souls, and I would consider all of us here, are conscious of the gross body. That is, Baba says, sthul sharir. If somebody were to say, Cyrus, what would I refer to? This body. So that means I am conscious of my body. I am conscious of each one's body. I am conscious of the gross world. There is a beautiful building, there are flowers, there is field, there is moon, there is sun, there are planets. They are all covered in the gross world. So in other words, Baba says that most souls are conscious of the gross body, sthul sharir. Some souls are conscious of the subtle body, pran. Pran means energy, urja. There are souls who are higher than the gross souls who identify themselves with energy. They have got pran. They do not identify themselves with the gross body. Then a few souls are conscious of mental body. That means mind or mana. Those who are in the mental world will not recognize themselves as the physical body or as the energy body. They will recognize themselves as mind, man. I am mind. Like if I have to say I would say I am body. Those on the subtle plane will say I am energy. Those in the mental world will say I am mana. A few souls are conscious of the mental body, which is mind or mana, and very few souls are conscious of self, capital S. Very, very few souls. And Baba later on has numbered them to be only 56. There are 56 God-realized souls in the entire creation, just imagine, at any given point in time. Of these souls, there are some who are in the state of mazubiyat. We'll come to that later on. There are some who are in the state of sulukiyat, and there are some, only 5, who are in the state of kutubiyat. Kutub meaning the perfect master or the Sadguru. So out of these 56, it is divided in this manner. Out of these 5 kutubs or Sadgurus or perfect master, there is one who is the chief, the head. He is known as Kutub-e-Irshad. He is the head of the 5 perfect masters and of the entire spiritual hierarchy which Baba gives later on in God Speaks as containing 7,000 souls. So he is the head. And when the avatar descends, when the avatar comes, he becomes the 57th, in which case he takes charge from the Kutub-e-Irshad. The Kutub-e-Irshad of his time was Shirdi Sai Baba. And he becomes the Sahib-e-Zaman. He is the Sahib-e-Zaman. He takes over all the responsibilities. Right? So here, very few souls are conscious of self. Go ahead.
Some souls, Atmas, have experience of the gross world. Some souls, Atmas, have experience of the subtle world. Some souls, Atmas, have experience of the mental world. And some souls, Atmas, have experience of the oversoul, Paramatma.
Okay. Now here, again, as I say, I won't repeat it again and again. There are differences in, I would say slight, but still profound. Okay. Here it says, most souls have experience of the gross sphere. Sphere is equal to world. Some souls have the experience of the subtle sphere, which is the world. Few souls have experience of the mental sphere, and very few souls have experience of the oversoul. I have already said they are only. So it's like a funnel. You know, many souls, most souls gross, the subtle, mental, and only 56 oversoul. They experience the oversoul.
Some souls, Atmas, are on the gross plane, Anna Bhumika. Some souls, Atmas, are on the subtle plane, Prana Bhumika. Some souls, Atmas, are on the mental plane, Mana Bhumika. And some souls, Atmas, are on the plane beyond the mental plane, Vijnana Bhumika.
Okay. So Bhumika means planes. And world is equal to sphere. So that we have to be very clear, because on and on Baba would be using those words. So here again, most souls, again the funnel effect, are on the gross plane. Most souls are on the gross plane. Some souls are on the subtle plane, which is Pran Bhumika, and gross plane Baba says Anna Bhumika. A few souls are on the mental plane, which means Mano Bhumika, and very few souls are on the plane beyond the mental plane, which is Vijnana. So that is the plane of truth or reality or Advait, Vijnana.
Some souls, Atmas, have great binding. Some souls, Atmas, have little binding. Some souls, Atmas, have very little binding. And some souls, Atmas, have absolutely no binding.
Again, the funnel effect, the more the sanskaras, the more the grossness, that is, you experience the gross world. Now those sanskaras have become rarefied, they have become feeble, they have become weak, and they have now transferred themselves into subtle sanskaras. That means it's experiencing the subtle world. Again, going and purifying yourself, the mental world. And finally, you are one with God. So I'll repeat this. Most souls have great binding. Which souls? Those who have got stool sanskaras or impressions, gross. Most souls have great bindings. Some souls have little binding. A few souls have very little binding. And a very few souls have absolutely no binding. Yes, Rakesh? Yes, correct. You are bound.
Impressions.
Sanskaras is impressions, yeah.
All these souls, Atmas, of different consciousness, of different experiences, of different states, are in the Oversoul, Paramatma.
Oh, that means you never go out of the Paramatma, because Paramatma, as we said earlier, is infinite and eternal. If you go to Mehrazad, I'm sure you've all gone, there is a cupboard there where there are 4 glasses. One is God, a very big glass. Then little smaller, mental, subtle, gross. So 1, 2, 3, 4. The gross goes into the subtle, which means the gross depends upon the subtle, but the subtle is independent of the gross, but is dependent upon the mental. Then both the gross and the subtle will go. Baba had explained it this way, and that's why they have preserved it. The gross and the subtle will then go into the mental, which means the mental is independent of gross and subtle, but subtle is dependent upon the mental. Then all the three will go inside God. That means God is independent of the gross, subtle and mental, and all the three are totally dependent upon God. So in other words, in a positive sense, we can never, ever, ever, ever be separated from God. We cannot ever be separated from God because we are all in God. So here Baba says, all these souls, atmas, of different consciousness, of different experiences, of different states are in the oversoul, which is Paramatma.
If now all souls, atmas, are in the oversoul, Paramatma, and all are one, then why is there any difference in the consciousness, in the planes, and in the states? The cause of this difference is that the souls, atmas, have different and diverse impressions, sanskaras. Some souls, atmas, have gross impressions, sanskaras. Some souls, atmas, have subtle impressions, sanskaras. Some souls, atmas, have mental impressions, sanskaras. And some souls, atmas, have no impressions, sanskaras, at all.
That means the root cause of the difference is the samskaras or the impressions. What are impressions? These are the imprints on our mind or mental body out of certain actions, out of thoughts, out of speaking, out of emotions of the past. So it is that one single factor, that is the samskaras or the impressions, that make a world of difference between which plane you are, which state you are, what experiences you are having, and which world you are living in. I'll repeat this. If now all souls are in the oversoul and are all one, everything is one, then why is there any difference in the consciousness, in the planes, in the experiences, and in the states? The cause of this difference is that the souls have different and diverse sanskaras. Now there's a footnote here, I will read out since we are supposed to read about samskaras. The formation and functions of samskaras, if you want to read, it is Discourses 7th edition, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, Sheriar Press, 1987, page number 32 to 39. It is just by way of additional information if you want to go deeper into what are the causes of the formation of samskaras and how do you eliminate them. Go ahead.
Souls have gross impressions. Souls have subtle impressions. Souls have mental impressions. And souls have no impressions, are all souls in the oversoul, and all are one.
No, I think you missed out one. Most souls, nahi? All right, there's three lines extra over here. Most souls have, see how Baba, like a mother, like a benevolent teacher, he's teaching us step by step by step, so that we do not miss out any step. In mathematics, if you miss out a step, then you just get lost. So we don't want to get lost, you know. So Baba is now saying, he tends to be very, very repetitive. And that's why I started the session with saying that repetition reinforces remembrance. Even retainment and then reproduction. So these are all R's. All right. So here it says, most souls have gross impressions. Some souls have subtle impressions, a few souls have mental impressions, and a very few souls have no impressions at all. Now, this is what you already read, Samya. Souls have gross impressions, souls have subtle impressions, souls have, I'm sorry, souls having gross impressions, souls having subtle impressions, souls having mental impressions, and souls having no impressions are all souls in the oversoul, and all are one. Baba is talking about oneness and unity of all life. When I started the session, there were very few people. Everyone and everything is everyone and everything at the same time and for all time. There is only one, unity. Any division, any separation is because of ignorance. And the cause of ignorance is Maya. We had done this in the very first session, that Maya is the principle of ignorance. Maya is that which causes or creates illusion. Maya is not illusion, it's a creator of illusion. Go ahead.
Souls of gross impressions have consciousness of the gross body, sharir, and have experience of the gross world. Souls of the subtle impressions have consciousness of the subtle body, prana, and have experience of the subtle world. Souls of the mental impressions have consciousness of the mental body, mana, and have experience of the mental world.
Correct. Yeah, same. Here, these certain words are different. That means, okay, we'll come to that. Souls with gross impressions have consciousness of the gross body, sthul sharir, and have experience of the gross sphere, which means the gross world. Now, if I consider myself as a gross conscious human being, my experience is only limited to the gross because my consciousness is gross. I may use my mind to think and evaluate and judge and do whatever it is, but I have no consciousness of the mind. I am doing it indirectly and unconsciously. In the same way, I am using the pran or the urja or the energy of the subtle world. I am raising my hand, you see. But I am not directly in the subtle world, so I am not conscious of the subtle sphere, and I am using the energy of the subtle sphere indirectly and unconsciously. And the same goes for all the other spheres as well. We'll come to that. So here what Baba is saying is that souls with gross impressions have consciousness of the gross body, sthul sharir, and have experience of this gross sphere, which means the gross world. Souls with subtle impressions have consciousness of the subtle body and have experience of the subtle sphere. Souls with mental impressions have consciousness of the mental body, which is mana or mind, and have the experience of the mental sphere. Souls with no impressions have consciousness of self, capital S, soul or atma, and have experience of the oversoul. Now, Paramatma. Now there, so it ends here. Now there is a little chart which Soumya will read out. Our hero has gone anyway. Otherwise he could have focused it. Can you do the focusing? No. Never mind. It's very simple actually. Go ahead.
Sphere, mystic.
There is a diagram which says, go ahead.
Sphere, and there is also body. So gross sphere, in the mystic, it is gross body. Sufi terminology is jism latif. Vedantic terminology is sthul sharir. Sphere, subtle sphere.
These are different names according to the Vedantic thought, Christian mysticism, and the Sufi. So basically it's there.
Subtle sphere, the body is subtle body. In Sufi terminology is jism kasif, and Vedantic is sukshma sharir. The sphere, mental sphere, the body is mental body, and in mysticism, In Sufi terminology, it's Jisme Altaf, and Vedantic terminology is Karan Sharir. Thus, souls of gross impressions experience the gross world through the gross body, Sharir, that is, they experience different and diverse experiences of seeing, hearing, smelling, eating, sleeping, clearing the bowels, and of urinating. All these are experiences of the gross world. Souls of the subtle impressions experience three planes of the subtle world through the subtle body, prana, and in these three planes, they have only the experiences of seeing, smelling, and hearing. Souls of the mental impressions through the mental body or mind in the mental world experience only seeing. And this seeing is the seeing of God.
All right. Okay, sorry.
Souls having no impressions through the self experience the infinite power, infinite knowledge, and infinite bliss of the Oversoul.
So here what Baba is trying to convey, that those souls with gross impressions, we are all having gross impressions, experience the gross sphere, which I said is the gross world, through the gross body. I am having gross impressions, and therefore I am experiencing the gross world through my gross body, right? That is, they experience different and diverse experiences, such as seeing, hearing, smelling, eating, sleeping, cleaning the bowels and urinating. All these experiences are of the gross sphere. So, as long as you are in the gross, you are conscious of what you are doing. Now, that's through your five senses. Okay, through your five senses. Now, we have graduated into the subtle sphere. So when we are graduating into the subtle sphere, some two senses are pulled out. The sense of touch and the sense of taste. They are pulled out. In other words, if yesterday somebody was there and said, how do I know on which plane I am? So I pinched her. Ouch! You are having a sense of touch, so you are still in the gross world. You know what I'm trying to say? So here Baba says, souls with subtle impressions experience successively the three planes of the subtle sphere. Now we are in the gross. When you start the involutionary journey, or the inner spiritual path, or the path to God realization, there is what is known as the first plane, then the second plane, then the third plane. These three planes are purely in the subtle world. The fourth plane is like a threshold between the subtle and the mental, which is a plane of infinite power. And then the fifth and the sixth plane, they are purely in the mental world. So what Baba is saying here is, souls with subtle impressions experience successively the three planes of the subtle sphere, first, second, and third, through the subtle body. And in these three planes, they have only the experience of seeing, smelling, and hearing. That means the other two attributes of a gross body, which is that of sense of touch and sense of taste, has gone away. Okay, you read all this, no? Okay. Now you again graduate into the mental world. Souls with mental impressions through the mental body or the mind in the mental sphere experience only seeing, and this seeing is the seeing of God. In the fifth plane, you have a very hazy vision of God. In the sixth plane, you directly see God face to face. And that seeing is done through your spiritual eye, right? And that spiritual eye becomes the last vestige of the sanskara or impression which has to be which has to be given up before you merge into the Lord, into the oversoul. So here in the gross, we have got 5 senses, in the subtle 3 senses, in the mental only 1 sense, that is of seeing. And souls having no impressions, that means they are already one with God. There is no question of any equipment to gauge or see the other, because they become God. And when they become God, when they are one with God, the experience is of the 3 types: infinite knowledge, infinite power, and infinite bliss. They become that.
The soul, Atma, that is conscious of the gross body, Sharir, that soul, Atma, is not conscious of the subtle body, Prana, not conscious of the mental body, Mana or mind, and not conscious or mind. That soul is not conscious of the gross body, Sharir, not conscious of the subtle body, Prana, and not conscious of self. The soul that is conscious of self, that soul is not conscious of the gross body, Sharir, not conscious of the subtle body, Prana, and not conscious of the mental body, Mana or mind. The soul that has experience of the gross world, that soul has not the experience of the subtle world, nor the experience of the mental world, nor the experience of the oversoul or Paramatma.
All right. I think it is very simple and easy to understand. In short, we have got 3 worlds or spheres in duality, and in reality there is only one. There is a gross world, subtle world, mental world. Those souls who are conscious of their gross bodies and gross world are not conscious of the subtle body, subtle world, and of the mental world, and of God. And of God, right? Those souls who are in the subtle sphere, in the subtle world, are not conscious of the gross, not conscious of the mental, not conscious of God, self. Then those who are in the mental world are not conscious of the gross, not conscious of the subtle, and not conscious of God. And those who are one with God in the initial stages, I am talking about the Mazubiyat state, are not conscious of the gross, not conscious of the subtle, not conscious of the mental. They are only conscious of Aham Brahmasmi, I am God's state, Anal Haq, God realization, self-realization. They are only conscious of that initially. Then subsequently, those who are destined to come down in their consciousness. Come down would mean not that they leave their body and come down. They are in the same physical form. But their consciousness, retaining the I am God state, also gets back the consciousness of creation, which means 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, boom, 0. God, they will get back that consciousness, but they do not have any duties to perform towards creation. They are called saliks. And similarly, those who retaining their God consciousness also retains creation consciousness, and they have duties to perform towards humanity, towards the entire creation. They are called kutubs, or the perfect masters, or sadgurus. So I am not reading the whole thing again, but basically it means that you are only conscious of your own sphere. Just a minute. Now a question may arise, and this question did arise. Now, supposing, let's say, Baba said, Gadge Maharaj was on the 6th plane. He said that, Or Guru Nanak Sahib was on the 6th plane. Or even, for that matter, Aurobindo Ghosh, he was on the 6th plane. Sometimes Baba would say he's on this plane, that plane. But I am seeing him walking, talking, eating, sleeping. So how can you say that he is on the 6th plane, which is in the mental bhumika, which is in the mental world, And yet he is talking, speaking, doing everything. Baba clarified that although to you he appears to be talking, walking, eating, doing anything, his consciousness is stationed in the mental world. But because you are in the gross world, you see him at your level and you see him talking, walking, sleeping, etc., etc. The example that he gives is that of a somnambulist, a person who in sleepwalking. I do that sometimes, In the night, Soumya says that I saw you wake up in the night, open the fridge, remove a bottle of beer, and you drank it. But I don't know that I did this. I genuinely don't know. Rakesh agrees. I don't know that I am doing all these things because because I am not conscious. My consciousness is not in the opening of the fridge and doing all these things. You see? So basically, where your conscious lies, is the main thing. But the other person can see according to his own standards. Now, for example, Meher Baba. We see him as what? As a gross physical body. Those who are in the subtle world will see him as energy body. Those who are in the mental world will see him and recognize him as mind. And those who are one with God will recognize him as the avatar, as the highest of the high, as God personified. So based on what our levels are, we are able to perceive at the level we are at. I hope I am making clear. Right, okay. Yes, you also get up. Okay, go ahead. Take a mic, because no, it won't be. I mean, the people who are watching will not be able to hear him. I got this feedback that we don't know what the questions are. Okay, I'll repeat your question.
So you said people on the mental world are not conscious of the gross.
Not conscious of the subtle and not conscious of God.
Yeah. So now, if Sai Baba is there and he talks,
Sai Baba is the...
he does everything.
Yeah.
So then, how the difference
That is exactly what I'm saying. He is not conscious of doing what he is doing.
So then he just does it.
He just does it. He just eats.
But he is not aware.
He is not...
Like I'm raising my hand. I require that energy. No. We are raising.
No. How is the energy coming in my
Where
hand?
is the energy coming?
Where did the thought come from that I should raise my hand? That I am not conscious
I'm
of
not
that.
conscious of the thought. The
I am
energy.
using-
Where is the energy coming? I am lifting. The end result, what you're seeing is my hand is lifted. But where is the energy coming for me to lift my hand? Where is
So
the
they
energy
do
coming?
it
That is-
unconsciously
yeah,
and
that
indirectly.
unconsciously,
The
because
way
I'm-
we are using energy from the prana and the thoughts, feelings, emotions from the mana, without knowing how we are using. I don't know where my thoughts are coming from. You see? So in the same way, Baba says that those who are in the subtle world are only conscious of the subtle. They are not conscious of the gross, not conscious of the mental, not conscious of God. So in the same way with mental, not conscious of gross, not conscious of subtle, not conscious... So yes, it is a little intriguing thing. It is intriguing that Baba had explained this, that their consciousness is focused on that plane. Sai Baba, as you rightly said, Shirdi Sai Baba, always conscious of I am God state. That's all. And he has come down for duty. And again, I repeat, many people misunderstand. Come down means again, drop the body. And no, in the same body, his consciousness has again regained the consciousness of creation, and he is performing his duties in creation. But his consciousness is stationed in I am God state. He sees, if at all he sees, this is all a shadow, this is all a dream, this is all a nothing into a nothing, But because he is duty bound, he does whatever he has to.
So what's the difference between gross consciousness and subtle consciousness? Like what?
The gross, I'll tell you.
What would be like what we're doing?
I'll tell you, I'll tell you, I'll tell you, I'll tell you. I'll tell you. Gross consciousness means I am aware or conscious of everything that is gross, stool, stool. I am able to perceive it through my five senses. That is gross consciousness, correct? In the moment I graduate into a subtle conscious human being, my consciousness of gross finished, over. I am living in the gross. I am having the physical form. I am putting on my pant and shirt. I am taking bath. I am eating. I am drinking, sleeping, everything. But my consciousness is I am prana. That means energy. And I have access to all the energies, the so-called riddhi siddhi. And I can do I see everything. I don't see you as this body. I see you as energy body. I see this chair as energy chair. Now I can't explain because I have not yet gone there. Yeah, please.
Feeling.
Feelings. Yes. Yes. It is prana,
No,
but do you know where does it, can you see prana? Can you manipulate prana? Prana. Somebody let me complete. Ah. What I'm trying to convey is, pran is the sphere of energy, right? Now, when you're talking about the feelings and all that, that is in the mental world. That's in the mental world. Baba talks about the mental world as plane 5 and plane 6. We haven't gone yet over there. The planes of consciousness, the 5th plane and the 6th plane, belongs to the mental world. There is a very clear-cut division in that. The 5th plane concerns the thoughts. Although it's in the mental world, it concerns the thoughts. You know, in other words, the person on the 5th plane, who is called a wali in Sufi terms, you know, he can read thoughts, he can manipulate thoughts, he can put certain thoughts in your brain, in your mind, I mean, right? So he is the master of thoughts. And the one who is on the 6th plane, he is the master of feelings. All kinds of feelings, happy, joy, sorrow, love, whatever it is. Love is an emotion for the soul, you know, that way. So what I'm trying to convey is, if you are in the gross, I am having feelings. Sometimes feelings of hurt, feeling of anguish, feeling of jealousy, whatever it is. But from where did it come from? I don't know the genesis, I don't know the source. I cannot manipulate, I cannot transfer my feeling of joy into you or my feeling of hatred into you. But people who are at the level of feeling, which is on the 6th plane, they can do anything. I can live this. Why? Because it is gross. But if I am having a feeling, I cannot transfer it to you. I cannot manipulate your feelings. I cannot know what you are feeling. You getting me? Whereas on the 6th plane, Peer, he's called a Peer, he can do anything with the feelings. The Wali can do anything and everything with thoughts. You see, that way. So what should I say? The subtle sphere concerns energy. He can do anything. That Baba says you can do miracles when you are in the sphere of the subtle world, you know. And when you are in the 4th sphere, which is called the dark night of the soul, which is the threshold between the 3rd and the 5th, where you get such tremendous powers. He's called a Kuber. He's called a Kuber. You can create new life. You can create new universes. You can bring back to life a person who has died. A 3rd planar can do that with pre-human, like if an animal has died, dog, cat, whatever it is. He can bring it back to life. That much of power is there. Because that 3rd planar has got the access to power. He has got the entire wherewithal how the power is created, how can I use the power? I don't know. I don't know. So in the fourth plane is supposedly the most dangerous plane of consciousness, because at that time the power is at its zenith. You can do anything, and anything would just mean anything. It's not just political power or, it is anything, you can do anything. And at the same time, since you are not in the mental world, you have no control over your thoughts and feelings. Even a person on the fourth plane does not have control over his thoughts, which is fifth plane, and feelings, which is the sixth plane. And that is why the peer of the sixth plane and the wali of the fifth plane and the Sadguru who are beyond all planes always keep a very close watch on this naughty boy, the fourth planer, because he may do some mischief, and if he does that, Baba says, first of all, Baba says that consciousness is always progressive. You always go ahead. It is not regressive or retrogressive. You can never go back to an animal form or a bird or a fish once you have achieved physical human body. But the only exception to this rule is the fourth plane. If you misuse the powers on the fourth plane, then your consciousness shatters, disintegrates, and you go back to the stone stage, and you have to start all over again. It's like a bulb which is meant for taking, let us say, 50 watts. And if you put 5 million watts of energy power, what will happen? It will just shatter. And you straight away go back to the stone stage, and you have to start your journey all over again. You have a question? No.
Science, I just wanted to ask.
Please.
As we know, the gross world, this is gross world.
Yeah, this is gross.
So what subtle world and mental world consist of?
The subtle world consists of energy.
Energy means, see, energy is a random explanation. But if it is a world, if it is a sphere, so what it made of?
Yeah, I got it. My understanding is, it is not, when we say a world, it doesn't mean it's another world. It's like from here to say 100 kilometers gross, then from 100 to 200 kilometers subtle. It's not like that. Baba says all these worlds are intertwining. And all these worlds are within you. It's not somewhere outside of you. There's no locale. There's no GSP you can use and say, I'm sorry, GPS you can use and go to that world. That's one thing. The only thing is you cannot access that. And the superb example that Baba gives, that supposing a person who is deaf from birth, he's deaf. For him, sound is another world, simply because he cannot have access to sound. In the same way, the energy of the subtle world is within us. The mind or a mana is within us, but we cannot access it because, why we cannot access it? Because our consciousness is shrouded, covered, enveloped by gross sanskaras. The garbage, the kachra we call it.
No, I'm not talking about sanskara. I'm talking about the entire sphere. When we talk about the sphere, it consists my subtle energy also, yours also, and to
Absolutely.
any X, Y, Z all over
Right.
the world. So when we say this is gross world, so there must be a gross world when you say, and a gross subtle world.
There, if you see
Or
that,
a mind, so
Samya wants to say something. So,
No, what is gross?
I'll-
What is gross? Everything is here and now.
Yes.
The gross, the subtle, the mental, everything is here and now. When I'm saying gross, all it means is that I'm perceiving whatever is around me
Yes.
with my
Through my five
senses.
gross
That
senses.
is why that is the only difference. Because I'm perceiving with my five senses.
Okay.
When I graduate to getting into the subtle world or the subtle sphere, these become finer. They are very intrinsic.
then you will not ask this question. Then you
how
will know.
does an atom
the
bomb?
world is same.
The world is the same. The world is the same. Like how there is an atom
Baba
bomb.
uses the word, they are all intertwining. They are all,
Anu, like
yeah.
Anu Shakti, Anu. atom is so small, but the energy that it holds within, it is so powerful. So we have it within us, but it's just that we have not graduated because I'm still bound with gross sanskaras. So that particular world has not opened up, because it's not that it is opened up. I have closed it. I have been an impediment because of my sanskaras. The
Baba.
moment I get
You have
lighter,
access to that, consciously or unconsciously.
we have
Is it-
unconscious
Unconsciously we do, yeah. Not
Yeah.
conscious,
Not
not consciously.
Not conscious.
That's why Baba says that all the stars, and I'll just come to that, all the planes of consciousness, all the masters, many people talk in terms of, this and everything is within you. He says that you are not in the cosmos. The cosmos is within you. And you are the creator, the preserver, and the dissolver of your creation, which is called the world. You are yourself the Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh. When you go back to sound sleep state, that means no dreams, you are actually one with God in the beyond state of God, which is also called the Paratpar Par Brahma state, also called the Vara Ul Vara state or Gaheb Ul Gaheb state. You are actually not as if akin to something like somewhat. No, you are actually one with God in the beyond state. And then when you gradually wake up from the sound sleep state to the dream state to the awake state, which we call awake, Baba calls it a false awake state. What do you create? Your consciousness creates your own universe. You have created your universe. And then just now, right now, we are the Vishnu. We are sustaining or maintaining, we are preserving that universe. That means we are Brahma, the creator, Vishnu, the sustainer or the preserver. And when we go back to sleep, we are the destroyer or dissolver of our own creation. There is no such astitva, reality, truth in the objective universe. That's what Baba is saying. You are the creator. There's no reality to this universe. I don't know whether I'm making sense. So Baba says you are the cosmos. You are not in the cosmos. The cosmos is within you, and you create, preserve, and dissolve every single day. That is, if you are going to sleep every single day. Yeah, she had a question. You wanted to share something. Please.
I think of it as it's just it's a different state of being. Although it's still
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
in the body, it's another state of being. Right? It's a different state of being. It's the progressing state of being.
Mm-hmm.
How I think of it.
Exactly. And all these experiences, including the experiences of I am God state, can be had only and only on earth in a human physical body. That also Baba says. How much importance earth is. Perfect masters are always on earth. Perfect masters are never born perfect. They become perfect after going through the involutionary process. They may have achieved a certain spiritual status in their past lives. They may have, let's say, traversed up to third plane or fourth plane or fifth plane. And they come. And then they graduate into the sixth and the seventh. You see, they are never born. The only exception to this rule is the avatar. That is why the avatar, there is an advent of avatar. He already is perfect. He doesn't have to go through the rigmarole of, reincarnation and involution and all that. He's already perfect. Only thing is he is besieged and brought down with a veil over it. And that veil is removed at the appointed time by one or more of the existing perfect masters of that time, which role was performed by Hazrat Baba Jan. Right? Shall we continue? Yeah.
Clear?
How can it be clear when we are not clear? Nothing
No.
can. In the gross world, nothing
it's-
of the subtle or the mental will
it's
be
just
clear.
like just to understand.
Understanding
So
has
many
no
times-
meaning.
No, sometimes we use the word, no, I don't know from where I'm getting the thoughts. That itself explains that, we really don't know. Whereas that is why Baba says, in the gross body, you have to be careful of our gross actions. That is why we have to be very careful. Yes. So when we speak, we say that, from where are my thoughts coming?
Chalo.
That is the meaning of that, I don't know from where, I have no access to it. So that as we graduate and we get to the...
to understand this, how this system works, but
That's...
in entirety.
The best part is when you
You
realize
won't
God,
know.
you will say, there's nothing to know.
There's nothing to know.
I remember this, Baba had asked this question, what do you think, what do you understand by all-knowing, infinite knowledge? So monthly, some people say infinite knowledge means you know what happened 1,000 years before, and you will know what 1,000 years hence, and you know everything, the past, present, and the future. You know what I'm going to think in my, after my 10 rebirths, what I'm going to think. So that is the meaning of infinite knowledge. So Baba nodded like this. And then he said, infinite knowledge means there is nothing to know. There is nothing to know. Because the moment if there is something to know, that means there is a person who wants to know. There is a process of knowingness, and there is something to know. That means there is duality. But when you are infinite knowledge, then you know, when you are knowledge itself. In prayers we say, you are knowledge itself. And when I am knowledge in itself, what is there to know? There is nothing to know. I am that. So, all right, go ahead.
The soul that has experience of the subtle world.
No,
that-
of the gross world.
I finished that.
You finished that? Okay. You
The
make a
soul
mark.
that has... I made a mark.
Okay, go ahead.
That has experience of the subtle world, that soul does not experience the gross world, nor has it experience of the mental world, nor has it experience of the oversoul, Paramatma. The soul that has experience of the mental world, that soul does not experience the gross world, nor does it experience the subtle world, nor has it experience of the oversoul, Paramatma. The soul that has experience of the oversoul, Paramatma, that soul does not experience the gross world, nor does it experience the subtle world, nor does it experience the mental world. That is, the soul that is conscious of self and has experience of the oversoul, Paramatma, that soul is not conscious of the gross body, Sharir, subtle body, Prana, and mental body, Mana or mind, and does not experience the gross, subtle, and mental worlds.
All right. Now, as I keep repeating that there are few differences in the words, there are two options open for me. I can read the whole thing again. This is mainly for those who are on the air, so to speak, those who are seeing live, and they have this book, The God Speaks. They might find that there are slight differences in words, so I'm not going to repeat it because it is quite understandable that this is what exactly, when in certain places where there are spheres over here, there's a word called world over here, or where there are souls over here, there are Atma over here, but it's basically the same thing. So again the same thing, those souls who are in the gross world will experience only the gross world. I have no experience of subtle, mental and God. Simple. Those who are in the subtle world have experiences only of the subtle world, although they are living in the gross world and doing all the acts of the gross world, like eating, drinking, sleeping, etc., they are not having the experience of the gross world because their consciousness is focused on the subtle. And therefore, those on the subtle will not experience the gross, will not experience the mental, will obviously not experience God. Similarly, those on the mental will not experience the gross, subtle and God, but will only experience the mental. It is,
Yes.
that's why I said,
Yes.
I said in the beginning that it might sound repetitive. Repetition reinforces, sorry? Remembrance, and also, it keeps on. So now it is so clear that tomorrow if somebody asks you anything about God speaks, you can also say, this is it, correct? One minute. Let me finish this particular thought. We've done it over and over again, that those who experience themselves as God do not experience the gross, subtle, and the mental world. They only experience the I am God state. Sabhyata has a question.
So, like from the beginning, how it's mentioned about consciousness, planes,
Speak a little loudly so that people on the other side, not on the in the hall, but on the other side.
so how it's mentioned about experience, planes, consciousness, and state.
Hmm.
So, you've just spoken about experience and the consciousness. I wanted to understand more about the state.
The whole point, the whole chapter is states of consciousness. So this, according to my limited understanding of things, all this puts you in a state of consciousness. What is your state of consciousness will depend upon which plane you are and what experiences you have and which world you are accessing.
Yes.
Yeah. I would look at it that way.
Consciousness
Yes,
of planes and
yes,
consciousness.
yes, yes.
Experience.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Only
you're right,
intelligent,
you're right.
intelligent
In that
people ask
plane-
this question because
in that
Swami also
plane-
asked me.
In that plane, you experience what
That
you-
particular state, yeah.
So that is the state.
But the chapter itself says states of consciousness. And what constitutes the state of consciousness is dependent upon what sphere or world you are in, what experiences you get, and based on your load of sanskaras. If your predominant load is gross, you will experience gross. If it is subtle, you will experience subtle. If it is mental, you will experience mental. If there are no no samskara, I am God state. Okay?
Also, one more thing, I feel there was some change of names, the Sufi names that we read.
Yeah, yeah,
The gross body, you said Jisme Latif.
Yes.
yeah.
But in our second edition, it is Jisme Kasif.
So that is what I said. Yeah, okay. Thanks
Here,
for
here, subtly
thanks for
speak,
drawing the
this-
attention.
thank you.
Sabhyata, I'll just repeat. See, there is a body. The mystic would say gross body. Sufi would say jism e kasif, jism e kasif, and Vedantic would say sthul sharir. Similarly, for subtle body, jism e latif, and shukshma sharir or pran, and for the mental, it will be mental body, jism e altaf, karan sharir or mana. So thank you for drawing me attention. Yeah. There will be many words which would be Sufi
But Baba
terms.
in the introduction has said, there are some additions, there are some clarifications. So that's
Yeah,
coming
yeah.
about. That is why
Yeah.
reading this also helps. There could be
And
some
there are
people
also
with
some Persian
additions,
words which those who know Persian should please forgive us for if at all we are misspelling. But Soumya has written down those pronunciations because I don't know whether you are aware that we have done a reading audio of entire God Speaks in a CD form and as well as in a pen drive. And the person to catch hold of is Rakesh Acharya. He will do the need if you are interested. So we read in a studio, we read the entire God Speaks, including all the supplements. And we had called a special person who was a Persian to read the Persian stanzas and all that. So it's in perfect pronunciation, that particular CD or whatever, pen drive. Go ahead, Swami.
Sorry.
This means
This means that in order to have consciousness of self and to have experience of the oversoul, Paramatma, the soul must lose consciousness of the gross, subtle, and mental bodies. But as long as the soul is impressioned either by gross, subtle, or mental impressions, sanskaras, the soul consistently and respectively has consciousness of the gross body, subtle body, or mental body, or the gross, subtle, and mental experiences are persistently undergone.
I think I'll read it because there are some words missing. So at the cost of repetition, I don't mind. Because we have, in a sense, committed that we will read God speak. So we'll read. This means that in order to have consciousness of self, which means capital Self, which is the same as God, because God realization is the same as self-realization. This means that in order to have consciousness of self and to have the experience of the oversoul meaning Paramatma, the soul must lose consciousness of the gross, subtle and mental bodies. Only when you lose these three consciousness, then only you will get the consciousness of the oversoul. But as long as the soul is impressioned, that means the samskaras are there, either of the gross, subtle or mental impressions, the soul consistently and respectively has consciousness of the gross body, subtle body or mental body, and the gross, subtle and mental experiences are persistently and necessarily undergone. So in other words, as long as you have any samskaras, whether it is gross, subtle or mental, you cannot reach God. And once you reach God, you will have no samskaras or impressions.
The obvious reason for this is that as long as the consciousness of the soul, Atma, is impressed by gross impressions, there is no way out except to experience these gross impressions through the gross body, Shari.
I just wanted to emphasize on this. It means what? Baba says obvious reason for this is that as long as the consciousness of the soul is impressed by gross impressions. Remember, nothing ever happens to the soul. Everything that is happening to the consciousness of the soul. There is no way out, that is why I interjected, there is no way out except to experience these gross impressions through the gross body. In other words, each one of us has gross impressions and we cannot help but experience these gross impressions. Many times we feel that so-and-so is behaving absolutely rubbish and is rotten and da-da-da-da-da-da. Why? Because he has those impressions. And he is a slave to those impressions. And the only way those impressions will get expression is through experiencing those impressions. And therefore, we should say that the other person is not difficult. He is different. He or she is only working out their own impressions. We are all slaves of our samskaras, and we cannot help but behave in a particular manner. I'm just trying to say, because here the word came across, there is no way out except to experience these gross impressions through the gross body. Am I making sense? The impressions are the imprints. They will never go away on its own. There are two ways that we won't go into that now. Through counter impressions, yes. Unless those impressions are given vent to expressions, and when those impressions are given vent, we are exposed to expression, they get an experience. And if in the process of getting the experience, I think, feel and believe that I am doing it, the platform of aham or I, the lower self, then again the experience will create more impressions and they will join the queue of impressions. Am I making sense? So that is why it's a rigmarole, it's a vicious circle. And that is why Baba says, remember me in whatever you do. Because the remembrance of Baba's name is a breakthrough. That means on one side, your impressions are getting exhausted. And on the other side, because you are remembering Baba, because you are thinking that it is Baba who is doing through you, again, the accumulation of samskaras will stop, and over a period of time, these impressions will become feeble and they will have no hold over you. In one of the messages, Baba says that words to the effect, whenever I quote Baba's message, please understand, these are, I am paraphrasing, words to the effect, that each one of us is like a wound up clock. The clock is wound by impressions. And at the appointed time, you call it scientifically DNA, RNA, whatever, a boy becomes of this age and starts growing beard, starts growing armpit hairs and all that, and starts behaving in a different way. We say it is hormonal changes, RNA, DNA, whatever you call it, that way. Basically, the clock is wound. It will ring. The alarm will ring at the appointed time. Just make sure not to wind it again. Now, what is winding it again? It's a very subtle thing. Winding it again means you are putting yourself in the picture, I am the doer. And that is why Baba talks about, when you start anything, remember me. After you have finished everything, offer it to me. Do not be attached to it. And if we make that as a practice, ongoing practice, then hopefully, because of our little effort and His Maha grace, we will be able to, it's like a torch, it's like a phone. Why do we recharge it every day? So that it keeps functioning. You see, a battery, it is charged, a chargeable battery, a rechargeable battery. But once you put it on and you don't recharge it, it dies. In the same way, the samskars has got a charge, a power, and you can't help but do whatever the samskars is prompting you to do. But at the time of doing, if you think it is not I who is doing. In discourses, Baba uses the word, you have to create a provisional ego which is subservient to that of the master. Which means when you are doing, don't think I am the doer. Create a provisional ego, master is doing through me. I am not the doer. And when that happens ongoingly, the power gets exhausted, the battery gets discharged, and you will have no recharge. Tata, bye-bye. Go to the subtle. I'm talking about the gross. Then you have to handle the subtle and the mental, and then you finally reach the goal.
If you have this habit at the time of breathing and last.
Talk here. Okay, Soumya prompts me to say this. Okay, let me see the timing. Oh, we still have a lot of time. Yeah, okay. Okay, that's the given. Baba's wish. Okay, Baba's wish. He has gone, we are digressing, but that's the way we function here. That's the way we function. Yeah, because basically it is to make things interesting and understandable and see that it really percolates or penetrates our being. There are 6 points, my wish. And the last one is very important. So that's what Soumya is trying to prompt me to say this. Baba says, I say with my divine authority to each and all, that whosoever takes my name at the time of breathing his last comes to me. So do not forget to remember me in your end moments. Unless you start remembering me from now on, it will be difficult for you to remember me when your end approaches. You must start practicing from now on. Even if you take my name only once every day, you will not forget to remember me in your dying moments. These are not the exact words, but words to the effect. Then somebody asked, Charles Purdom asked, what do you mean by come to me? What is the meaning of come to me? Baba clarified, come to me, anybody and everybody who remembers me. And by me doesn't mean just Meher Baba. It can be any past advent, or it could perhaps also be any of the perfect master's name. Your own guru who is a perfect master. Baba says, coming to me would mean that particular soul will experience infinite bliss eternally. Baba further clarified. It means that that particular soul does not have to reincarnate again, come back in body again. Baba also clarified, it is not a state of perfection, because perfection is to be achieved in the human body, while in the human body, and the experience of that soul is infinite knowledge, infinite power, and infinite bliss. Whereas here in this mukti, or moksha, or liberation, or salvation, it's an ordinary mukti also called najat mukti, which means this mukti is had some days after you drop the physical body. So you do not experience infinite knowledge and infinite power, you only experience infinite bliss eternally. I think it is enough for me. I don't want to experience power. Okay, everybody says enough. So Baba has given the shortcut of becoming one with him and experiencing that infinite bliss eternally if we remember him when we breathe our last. Now, okay, somebody says, again, somebody says, should we say Baba? Or should we say Meher Baba? Or should we say Avatar Meher Baba? Or should we say Mohan Avatar Meher Baba, Sarva Vyapi, all this. Somebody had asked in the course of, I said, see, basically I think it is the intent or the motive that, but for me, personally I am saying, it depends, individually, I would say Baba. Because if I am going to say Avatar Meher Baba, and if Avatar, then Baba would wonder whom is he calling? Some. So I don't want to take risk. Because I remember Bal Nathuji very sweetly, he was a very sweet gentleman, you know. He said, Baba is so eager and anxious and restless to help you that by the time you say Ba, the first Ba, Baba is saying, who's calling me? Where is he? I'll come. You know. So you don't have to repeat the second Ba. So Baba means Baba. You know. And then somebody says, no, but there are so many Babas and all that. So, you know, I am giving this example. No, I don't want, no. So supposing now, if I'm giving this example, good that you said, digressing, but please bear with me. When we were young children playing in the Parsi colony, we call it tappi, that ball game, tapak, tap, tapak, tak, like that, you know. And after playing for 15, 20 minutes, we get thirsty. So I would call out, Mommy. Which mummy will come out? There are 15 boys playing down. If I say mummy, only that mama will come out. And then she will, what is it? So, Pani, I want water. So we had this system of, you know, there was a basket and a rope. So we were on the second floor, so she would put a bottle of water in that basket and we would drink it and share it with others and all that. So what I'm trying to say, mummy means only that mummy. For us, Baba means only Meher Baba. Sorry? Because he knows, correct. We don't need to say, according to me again, I don't want to get into a debate because many people ask, why do you say Jai Baba? Why don't you say Jai Meher Baba? I said, if I have my mother, if I say Mama, my mother's name was Banu, I wouldn't say Banu Mama. Why should I say? I know Mama means Mama. You know, so when I say Baba, it is Jai Baba, it is Meher Baba. Why should I say the name? Or if I am talking to an outsider, if I am introducing Baba to an outsider, I may have to say Meher Baba, you know, because there are many Babas. But if I am talking between Baba lovers, because I have been reprimanded many times for this, we don't say Jai Baba, say Jai Meher Baba. I said, to each his own. You know, my Baba is so near to me and I am so near to Baba. If I say Baba, it is him only who's going to come. I am not going to, you know, but I don't want a debate to start here on this. हाँ तो फिर अवतार क्यों नहीं बोलते हो? फिर ये बात, why? See, you don't say Jai Avatar Meher Baba, you say Jai Meher Baba. Why? Because avatar is his status. There was a time, I'm digressing as usual, when he declared himself to be Avatar Meher Baba on 10th of February 54, I suppose, Adi Kaka was so serious about it. Adi K. Irani was Baba's secretary, that if somebody were to write Sri Meher Baba, he would send the letter back. No, you write Avatar Meher Baba because that is his title. He was like that. He was very sincere about it. So I said, let's not get into that. But the important thing here is to try and remember Baba in whatever little that we are doing, so that the sanskaric attachment of that action does not come and again twine on our side. Okay, go ahead.
Similarly, as long as the consciousness of the soul is impressed by subtle impressions, there is no way out but to experience these subtle impressions through the subtle body prana. Similarly, as long as the consciousness of the soul is impressed by mental impressions, there is no escape but to experience these mental impressions through the mental body, mana, or mind.
All right. So in other words, just as what we did about the gross, as long as the gross impressions are there, there is no way out but to experience the gross impressions. Similarly, as long as the subtle impressions are there, there is no way out but to experience the subtle impressions through the subtle body in the subtle world. And similarly, as long as the mental impressions are there, there is no way out but to experience the mental impressions through the mental body in the mental sphere. Clear? Very clear. How easy?
As impressions completely vanish or completely disappear, impressions of the gross, subtle and mental, the consciousness of the soul, Atma, is automatically and obviously directed and focused towards itself, and this soul then necessarily has no alternative but to absorb experience of the oversoul, Paramatma.
Simple. As you graduate, as the impressions or the sanskaras wear out, become thinner and thinner, finer and finer, rarefied, we go from the gross to the subtle. Why? Because the impressions now have turned subtle, so we enter the subtle world, experience the subtle world, experience the power and the riddhi-siddhi of the subtle world. We may or may not use those powers. Then we go on to the fourth plane, as I said, which is the go between the third and the fifth, which is also called the dark night of the soul, which is the threshold between the third and the fifth. And if you misuse that powers on the fourth, as I said, the consciousness shatters and you go back to the stone. That is the only place for where you can go back to the stone state. Now, if once you are in the fifth plane, your journey is entirely safe. There is no question of anything happening. The fifth plane is the plane of the thoughts. You control thoughts, you create thoughts, you manipulate thoughts, everything about thoughts in the fifth plane. You see a hazy figure, idea of seeing God in everyone and everything. In the sixth plane, the fifth one is called the Vali, the fifth is called the Peer. You actually see God in everyone and everything, but you are yet not one with God. There is a huge abyss, there is a huge valley between you and the God, and you cannot jump that valley. Between the duality and unity, at that point in time, you need to have the help of a living, perfect master or the avatar who is the eternal, living, perfect master. The one case which I have, the recorded case I have read, is that of Aurobindo Ghosh, who made it all by himself through his own effort of meditation till the sixth plane. And what the records say is that on the day when he passed over, Baba asked, I think it was Adi K. Irani, to bring a photograph of Aurobindo into his room while he was sleeping in the night. And the next morning, the news came that Aurobindo is no more, Aurobindo is no more. And that is where Baba remarked, I helped him and pushed him from the 6th to the 7th. So that means that unless and until, you may be anybody, unless and until you are helped by a living perfect master or the avatar who's the eternal living perfect master, you cannot jump that valley. So here what Baba is saying is that once you are devoid of the gross, subtle and the mental sanskaras, automatically, you don't have to do anything. Like how, just as you are devoid of the gross, you automatically enter the subtle. Just when you are devoid of the subtle, you automatically enter the mental. And when you are through, or when you lose all the sanskaras, you automatically become one with God. But here the automatically also includes the help of a perfect master. I think we are done, Samya. 1 second. There's only 1 minute more. Unless anybody has anything to... Please.
So I just wanted to clear one thing that you've spoken about gross consciousness, gross impressions. So they are divided in 1, 2, and 3 planes.
Not gross. The gross is gross. When it becomes
Subtle.
finer, it becomes subtle. It changes into subtle, then into mental.
But you spoke about the planes. So
Planes.
from 1 to 3rd plane,
1 to 3 is purely in the subtle sphere or subtle world. The 4th also is considered as subtle, but at certain places Baba said that it's like a threshold between the 3rd and the 5th. And the 5th and the 6th are purely in mental world. Purely in mental world. I don't mean that mental world. Huh?
7th is reality.
Sometimes we
7th
say,
is
oh, you are mental.
To simplify 1 to 4 is subtle, 5 and 6 is mental.
All right. So thank you, Baba, and thanks to all of you for attending. Let us hope and pray that we cover the entire God Speaks in such an easy manner. I know it's not easy. There are places where I will say, forget your question, move ahead, because you can't answer them. Thank you, Baba. Avatar Meher Baba ki Jai.